Oh yeah, what's up? Welcome everybody back in the purple scissor up throne, ready to set the record straight. I took over Twitter the past 3 days. I don't know if you saw that. We had quite a week, 2 weeks. I took over Twitter. I got addicted to Zen packs. I'm taking my methylene blues. My tongue is blue as hell. And I'm ready for this. Y'all ready for this? I'm ready to talk smack. I'm ready to refute slow boys. I'm ready to freestyle rap. I'm ready to hit on your mom in a joking way because I'm married. I'm ready to do it all, son. Guess what? Good news has happened. Look at this. That's a wicked laugh, by the way. Esoteric Hollywood 3 solid physical copies have arrived, baby. And this is even better quality paper. I mean, we're talking like smooth white boy pages. Ooh, look at those racist white boy, smooth white paper. Oh, look, I'm getting paper cuts for the hell of it. It feels good. Getting paper cuts. We got, as I mentioned, look at this. Look at these chapters, son. You can't beat these chapters. We got Marvel faking gay. We got Christopher Nolan's. We got dystopia, Gnostic feminist archetypes. What else do we got? We got Apocalypse and Antichrist. We got obscure B movies that were so much fun. All tightly packed in another 350 pages of Esoteric Hollywood. Part 3, the end of the trilogy. This is like Return of the Jedi, but without little gay creatures. It was actually a longer process to write this one than the other books. It took me maybe a year and a half, 2 years total. Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2, most of that had already been written. And Esoteric Hollywood 3 was, I would say, 60% to 70% brand new. So it's a great end, providentially, to a trilogy that ends up about apocalypse, right? So it's sex cults and apocalypse in film. And the reason I did that is because Hollywood is kind of in its own little apocalypse. It served its purpose as a deracinating, propagandizing outfit. It did its job. They can hand the studios over now to the Chinese or whatever. And it was, this comes to a total, I think it's over 1,000 pages now. So I've written over 1,000 pages of film reviews, symbolic analysis, and I'll read the back of it just because it made it sound so good. I'm not sure who wrote this, but Esoteric Hollywood 3 dives into cinema's hidden layers, exposing how ritual, myth, and propaganda are encoded into films. These films shape our culture, from comic book blockbusters to forgotten B movies, from Christopher Nolan's brooding epics to occult-infused horror. J. Dyer returns with a long-anticipated third volume of this acclaimed series. And it had been, I think, 2018. So it's been about 7 years since part 2 came out. Dyer unpacks the alchemical apocalypse at the heart of Hollywood's narratives, where post-human futures, dystopian nightmares, and occult archetypes are rehearsed for mass audiences. From Marvel's engineered mythos to the dark horror films of the modern era, from Scorsese's mafia sagas to The Sopranos. That's a bit of a typo because I don't think Sopranos actually made it into the final version, but he shows how popular entertainment mirrors the strategies of intelligence agencies, organized crime, and cultural engineers. Woven throughout with philosophy, theology, and social critique, This volume culminates in Hollywood Antichrist Apocalypse, a decoding of cinema's obsession with the demonic and end times scenarios. In these pages, Hollywood is revealed as Babylon and Oracle, scripting not only our dreams, but our collective future. Provocative, unsettling, and impossible to ignore. Esoteric Hollywood 3 is the capstone of Jay's cultural analysis, a final act that shows why, now more than ever, it feels like we are living inside of a satanic B movie. Esoteric Hollywood 3. It feels great in my hand. I like it. So, these will ship out starting tomorrow. I just unloaded a giant pallet, and the signed copies will ship out tomorrow. Thank you guys. Welcome everybody to another installment of online Twitter skinhead drama. So if you don't know, I sort of took over Twitter in a way, not really, but in a minor way. And we did get millions of views, or I should say impressions. One of the nerds corrected me. Yes, a view is not an impression. Because, of course, as far as we know, InfoWars is coming to an end. So we had multiple live stream discussions with Lord Voldemort, Harrison Smith. Ended up being 3 separate 1-hour segments is what it amounted to. And I launched into something that I didn't really think was as controversial as it has now become, which was alternative World War II analyses. And apparently, because for whatever reason, the Silicon Valley overlords have allowed Tiny Mustache Man memes, clips, etc. to be everywhere. Instagram, Reels, Twitter clips. This is the hottest thing. Now, I'm not new to this subject. I read extensively about Zionism back in 2007 and 8. I learned about the Talmud back then, what the Talmud teaches. This is different because nowadays the memeing has popularized Tiny Mustache Man. And if you heard any of the Twitter spaces that we did while we were on the road, you know that no one, and I can't remember one single person, could actually come on and give an account for why we're supposed to follow this trend, or why the revisionist narratives, which I agree with revisionist narratives, but I don't agree with the opposite extreme that no, now suddenly Tiny Mustache Man is based in trap. Why are we supposed to think that? Well, you would think that one of these so-called intellectuals could have come on and made this case, and I was repeatedly referred to different multi-100,000 follower profiles, reached out to every single one of them. None of them would come on. One of them said, I'll do a written debate. A written debate in 2025. Yeah, that 20 people will read, sure. It's like Michael Lofton level stuff of like, it's like the Wiggers and the Wignats can get together on not actually debating, but just asking for written debates. So the choppy audio is not, we've already covered this. It's nothing to do with me. It's an issue with OBS. So let's see, I can try this workaround. Test. Sometimes the workaround makes it a little bit better if I do that. We're waiting on OBS to fix the issue. It's not me. It's not my tech. It's nothing to do with anything I've done. It's a known issue with OBS and the integration into the live streaming. All right. I've already talked to Jake Shield. Jake Shield does not want to do a debate anymore. He said it's too nuanced. He says now let's read a couple super chats. Hush Tones, $2. Get ready for tag calendar questions and the esoteric canon issue. Hush Tones. AJ got on Methylene Blue, but you didn't get him to a divine liturgy. I did. He has visited. He said it's a little bit too long, I think. Nick, $5. Jay, don't use that. That company supports Skittle stuff. People gave me this. I don't know anything about the company. I started Alp. They taste better. What do you mean? It is Alp. It's not Zen. I just called it Zen because I mixed it up. So Ace Brazi says we need more physiognomy conversations. Both groups of Middle Eastern peoples have historically relied on numbers and subversion for a reason. They're physically unimpressive by genetics. That's okay. I mean, I don't know how. Somebody at one of the live events that we did on the road asked about physiognomy, and I was like, I mean, I think it's very revelatory. I don't know how exactly you get super scientific about it. I mean, obviously, ants have tiny brains, humans have bigger brains, so there is something to brain size, actual physical brain size. But it is a fascinating topic. I will have to think about how to cover it. Counterdocs, $10. Hey, Groiper asked if you thought Gypsy Crusader was Bays. You said you know who he was. For your information, he's a guy who goes online and calls out inward and plays dress up. He is the biggest hero. There was a guy that called Gypsy Crusader who called in. I don't know if it's the same guy, but we had a good conversation about books and stuff. So I don't know if that's the same dude or not. Austin Alvarez, $5. KGB, keep getting Bitcoin. Ryan G, $2. What's up, dog? Yeah, I wish they could resolve this issue with OBS. It sucks too because every time we do a live stream like this and I explain what's going on, we have to have like 5,000 people restate that there's audio choppy issues, which has nothing to do with me. Audio is not choppy on X. Yes, I know, because I'm on my phone on X. We do it straight up ghetto style, bro. Jay, that was not Paul Miller. Okay, I don't know who the guy was that. I mean, there must be more than one profile with that name. Yeah, it's Apple has issues with OBS. Is what Streamlabs OBS. It's not my microphone. It's Apple integration. There's a public message at OBS that there's a known issue. I mean, there's literally nothing I can do if there's a known issue. What's weird is that it'll get better and then it'll go back to being bad and then it'll get better. So it really makes no sense. But we'll go to open calls here in a second. But we had a fun time on the road, and then these live streams on X kind of caused quite a stir. I mean, some of them, the first one that we did a few months ago, it's had like 30,000 on X. And then we had some others more recently that got a lot of views, and some of them went for 4 or 5 hours. And we couldn't really get any solid argumentation other than, why do you listen to Carol Quigley? And it's like, because he's admitting the establishment perspective. And it's like, oh, they suppressed the release of the book. So, but you see, they suppressed the release of the book to tie into the Zionist conspiracy that they weren't really suppressing the release of the book, right? That's kind of what they're saying. It gets ridiculous. But one thing I wanted to say about trolling that a lot of these people don't realize, because I made another comment that a lot of the sort of Wignat perspective that's going on out here on Twitter that's going crazy, I said that it could be an issue where they're allowing this now as a sort of fusion between far right and NATO support in the Ukraine. And everyone thought this was insane. They were just absolutely losing their minds that I would say this. However, if you remember, the Gray Zone did an article exposing NAFO, which was an online cybercom, massive NATO cyber warfare campaign, using all of these bots to garner internet support for NATO operations in the Ukraine. It's called NAFO, and they all use the Doge dog as their image and their symbol. Now, NAFO has kind of died down, and I said, it's possible that maybe they're allowing Tiny Mustache Man. That's not the only reason, by the way, that they would allow it. This is one of the many reasons everywhere on Silicon Valley outlets for a reason. And the only answer from all these people is just simply, no, we've just broken containment. They can't control us anymore. Really, you're that naive. You think that Zuckerberg has just caved in to. I like all you Tiny Mustache men. All of you guys that are out here promoting Tiny Mustache Man, I love you guys now. You're so awesome. And I'm on your side pretty much, because haven't you seen me do some judo kicks? That means I'm based. Also, I wear a chain, and that's really cool. And like millennials, it's like sort of Gen Z zennial. And Mark Zuckerberg is basically based and tried now. Right? That's what people think. Mr. Fist, $20. Jay, did you know that your audio is choppy? No, I didn't know. It's because I bought a $2 microphone from a man in the ghetto, opened up his shirt, said, get your ass a microphone right here. And I'm like, why that $2 microphone not working? Yeah, I know. I bought a hundreds of dollars microphone to fix this issue, and it wasn't even my microphone. Okay, here come the bots with gibberish. I think it'll get better if we just hope and pray. However, remember the NATO PSYOPs document, Cognitive Warfare, which we analyzed many years ago. It says the role of emotions in the digital realm is crucial. In terms of distinguishing the individuals in the crowd, emotions refine personalization and behavioral analysis. Every social media platform, every website is designed to be addictive and triggering emotional outbursts. This traps the brain in a cycle of posts. The speed, the emotional intensity, the echo chamber quality of the content cause those exposed to it to experience more extreme reactions. Social media is particularly well suited to worsening political polarization and social polarization because of their ability to disseminate violent images and scary rumors very quickly and intensely. The more anger spreads, the more internet users are susceptible to becoming a troll. So NATO has scientifically studied trolling and the creation of nihilistic trolls as part of their open cognitive warfare InfoWar. You can find this document. It's the NATO cognitive warfare document. And the document moves on to go a lot further than this to say, not only are we interested in altering worldviews and paradigms, that's the older model. And if you remember, when we covered the changing images of man recently, the later chapters are all about worldviews and paradigms. It's a presuppositional analysis text. I'm not kidding. The chapter that I'm on right now is literally about Thomas Kuhn worldviews, paradigms, and how through shock doctrine, through shock techniques, shocks to the system, to alter people's worldviews. Crises and shocks to your paradigm collapse your paradigm. And it even says what we talked about multiple times this week, like Jordan Peterson has said, you undergo a mini death when your worldview collapses. That is mentioned in this chapter in Changing Images of Man about the changing of worldviews. So when you undergo that, your worldview changes. It's a mini death, and they want to give you the new worldview. The NATO document, which is much more recent, is way more advanced than that. It says we're not even so much concerned with altering people's ideological worldview paradigms. Now what we want to do is alter the brain, the chemistry. And it obviously mentions what you would expect: nanotech, implantable technology, biometrics, et cetera, et cetera. So this document is quite amazing. I don't think anyone talking smack back to me even has any notion of this document or has even read it or knows what it is. And that's why none of the people who have, it was thousands of people on Twitter, thousands. A lot of these could be bots too. But I was scrolling through all the different replies, all the different giant, everybody from 80,000 Asha logos 100,000, 200,000 level profiles, up to Jake Shields, 500,000 followers, on and on and on, sharing, replying, etc. Thousands of comments, and everybody talking about how I'm every name in the book, and nobody with any solid information except for a couple, tiny mustache man follower profiles. And the only thing they would do is just say, Jay's full of it because here's a German history book that says otherwise. That's it. Just here's another take from a German historian. And I don't mean David Irving. I'm just talking about random German historians that nobody can find the books. Oh, okay. Well, I guess everything's refuted because you found a German historian saying something different. Now, maybe the German historian is more credible and it refutes what I'm saying, but none of that actually deals with what I argued. And another reason that you can see that I think there's a good case for this, and what I argued in terms of the alternative narrative, British intelligence goaded Tiny Mustache Man into doing what he did. They had a dual strategy, a dual appeasement plan. It's a 7-point plan that's in multiple chapters of Quigley. The critics of this view back up the same story. So, for example, Anthony Sutton, who's not a Fabian socialist, he comes out of the Hoover Institute, he's more of a libertarian. They genuinely don't like each other, right? If you think of Quigley, he's more of a Fabian socialist third way proponent. And so Sutton comes to all the same conclusions with a totally different perspective. He totally disagrees. So you've got pro and anti with the same analysis. That to me is a pretty good attestation to the fact that there's truth to this version. Now, Pat Buchanan in his book about the unnecessary war goes all the way as far as to say that it was intended, right? And that's really what Quigley and Sutton are kind of coming to. They wanted to wreck Europe. I'm talking about the banking elite that we're talking about. And so they goaded Tiny Mustache Man by saying, we will not oppose you when you move into Poland. We will not oppose you when you take the $3 billion of Czech gold. You will continue to receive funding from the Cologne Bank. And that will be the private agreement that we had with Ribbentrop, whereas publicly we will have an oppositional public stance for the masses. And that's what the British elites did. This is the Astors, the Cliveden set, the Royal Society elite. And that's all detailed in hundreds of pages within the middle section of Tragedy and Hope. Now, that's not the only books that deal with this. There's probably 10 other books that deal with this approach. People like Michael Hoffman have written about how you couldn't have the modern nation state of Israel had not there been World War II and Tiny Mustache Man doing what he did. There's also the Havara Agreement between Tiny Mustache Man followers and Zionists. There's many other books, too, that I've got up on my shelf that we haven't even got to, which I guess we're going to have to get to all this in the future. We'll have to do probably, I don't know, some kind of series on this. And then my publisher has just put out, not just Esther Hollywood 3, but another separate book on who was behind the rise of Tiny Mustache Man. So yet another book just now coming out that's in the mail. It's on its way to me. Now, it's weird, too, because you go back, say, 10 years, and online internet interactions were actually more of an intellectual debate. In the theology sphere, when it was a lot of debates on, say, YouTube comments or Facebook, you would have hundreds and hundreds of very detailed academic debates. And just like this NATO PSYOP document states, can you guys even see it? Yeah. Really, it has degraded to where you don't actually have informed academic debates and discussions. And now that allows for really trolling to come to the fore. And then whatever's allowed in the algorithm is what determines the majority view. And then if you have a disagreeing, counter narrative alternative thesis, you just get piled upon with bots or whoever is piling on to you. I'm speaking here of the Wignat followers and all the people who in the hundreds and in the thousands of comments were piling on. So again, I guess I'm just from a different period where actual argumentation, history, etc. mattered. You had to actually back up and give an account for what you're talking about. That's way too highbrow for these days. It's all now just meme war. And the thing about meme warfare is that it's postmodern in that you don't have to actually ground anything in the history. And I think so far in the many discussions that we had, at least 4 people called in basically saying that Tiny Mustache Man doesn't even matter historically as to what was happening. In other words, it doesn't even matter if the banking elite gave money to his rise, and if British intelligence double crossed him. None of that even matters, because all that matters is the symbolic new narrative that you craft with the meme magic and the meme warfare. And there is a power to that, but the problem is that it's postmodern, right? We know that the Trump memes on 4chan eventually helped in the mass consciousness get public the idea that maybe Donald Trump could be the president. And I think that they've been planning, for Trump to run for a long time. I mean, Trump was talking to Oprah back in the 90s that he might run for president. So this is something that's not new, but meme warfare, as we know, has been studied not just by NATO, but also by GCHQ. They put out a thing maybe 10 years ago talking about meme magic. And so, yeah, that's true. A lot of these followers ironically are bro Nathaniel bots, and it's weird to me that anyone follows these people, because people can't detect when somebody is mentally unstable. Brother Nathaniel is known by many clerics and other people in the Orthodox Church to be on meds, and it's been said for at least 10 years that when he doesn't take his meds, he has these online sort of unravelings. For example, as a monastic, he was going off on who the hot chicks were and who wasn't hot. Not appropriate for a monastic. He was told by the bishops to get off the internet. He's not under any actual bishop as a monastic. And I don't know if you know that, but that doesn't exist. Like in the Orthodox world, there's no such thing as a monastic who doesn't have a monastery. You can't just be this sort of roving Protestant pastor. And beyond that, I mean, he also said in one of his tweets, there's no such thing as theosis. How could you be an Orthodox monk for 20 years and literally say there's no such thing as theosis? It's a pagan idea, he says. So this is either somebody just totally a kook, which is what I lean towards, or a little more, in my opinion, glowy. Could be either one. But if you guys don't have the discernment to see that, there's not much help I can give you. But then, we got quite a good taste of the intellectual level of these followers when they called in for hours on end. And most of them couldn't even put together coherent sentences, much less going into what World War II history books were the necessary reads. So these are people who am I? I'm talking about Brother Nathaniel Kapner, and I'm talking about all the Wignats by the hundreds and thousands who have come after me in the last few days as a result of my last in-studio event with Lord Voldemort. Because as far as we know, that is going to be shut down unless there's some sort of legal miracle or whatever. So, but that's what I wanted to highlight here, is that if you read the geopolitical takes from good outlets, and I don't agree with everything at the Gray Zone, because Max Blumenthal is a socialist, and we did a whole analysis of his book, Management of Savagery. We broke it down, and I pointed out where I agreed and disagreed. But this article on NAFO is good. But when I mentioned this was absolutely, it's all insane that you would even believe such a thing. This is absolutely insane. Now, you can look. They said, you never talk about these topics. You're a coward. You never talk about these topics. Well, here's, in January, an entire discussion on this topic, the establishment of the nation-state of Israel, the Rothschilds, etc., 626,000 impressions. Here's a 4-hour lecture we did months ago on Mossad, the CIA, Lebanon, and Israel, and the entire Middle East. Here we put this up at the time when we were having the disagreements with apostate prophet Ridvan. This is an entire discussion from Richard on Moses Hess. That's the book I covered in these lectures. I don't even think the people who were commenting actually watched what I said on the interview. Because had they actually watched the interview, they would have heard me talking extensively about the relationship of Zionism to these issues. So I don't even think they listened to it. I think they read the headline and then they piled into the comments. Now here we talked about James Jesus Angleton and his Middle Eastern affinities. Long time ago. Here we are debating Christian Zionism with this goofus, the absolute biggest moron on the internet, misfit patriot. Here we did last year an entire 3-hour live stream debunking Christian Zionism. J. Dye reveals how the Rothschilds created the modern state of Israel. Here we are 2-3 years ago opposing Zionism. Now, that's just a sampling. So it's completely dishonest to say, oh, Dyer never talks about these things. I didn't see any value in just getting nuked off of all the platforms. What was the point of that? Because number one, at the time in 2020 or whatever you want to go back to, if you got nuked from all the platforms and you were segregated to Rumble, hardly anybody was over there. So what was the point of it? To talk to nobody? I'm not dissing that outlet. I'm just saying, like, there wasn't much of an audience in 2020. So it's just like Koof. I mean, a lot of people stopped talking about health-related issues at the time of 2020. Because what was the point? Just going to nuke your channel. There's no point in it. Oh, coward, oh, coward. Well, now, wait a minute. I mean, I talked about these issues in 2007 and 8. I had a blog about these topics. I got threatened at my job. People were saying, we're going to call your job. We know where you work. We're going to get you fired because you're a tiny mustache man follower. 2007 and 8. Now, why was I a tiny mustache man follower? Because I talked about Zionism and critiqued it back then. I've never been a tiny mustache man follower. I've always thought that the dysgenics, the sterilization, the anti-Slav attitude, the anti-Christian attitudes throughout Himmler and Tiny Mustache Man's books, as well as Alfred Rosenberg, Positive Christianity, which is Marcionite. Did you know that Rosenberg crafted a new Christianity that would fit the Reich, that would be anti-Judaic, meaning that it would remove the Old Testament? And they literally describe it as a Marcionite version of Christianity. Okay, I've always been opposed to that. I knew that in the 2000s, that's what Rosenberg was. He made up the mythology. But notice the postmodern approach that Rosenberg had to craft the mythology for the Reich. And that's literally what he did. He made up a story. He's like a Joseph Campbell narrative creator person, right? Let's make a story that they can have. Well, that's the same thing that the meme warriors are doing, which is will meme the crap out of Tiny Mustache Man and create a new story. And it's like, well, but what about all these anti-Christian doctrines? No, we don't care. It doesn't matter. And every one of these so-called Christians that called in about this couldn't even give an account for what kind of Christianity they were part of. They didn't even know. One guy didn't even know what the Nicene Creed was. I mean, it was just like baffling level stuff. But these are the people that are calling me out, right? That's why people don't want to debate, is that they can't actually defend the issues. It's all pure propaganda. That was my perspective on this. Now, Pope Leo has come to our rescue as usual, and every time things get really heated, Leo steps in as our BFF to actually create a scandal better than anything even Francis offered up. And he consistently does it, maybe even a little bit more consistent than Francis, actually. I'm really surprised with how wild Leo's getting. In fact, the other day he said on his Twitter, religious freedom allows individuals and communities to seek truth, to live it and bear witness to it. It is there a cornerstone of any just society to have religious liberty, freedom of conscience. Now, interesting, because if you go and read Quanta Cura and the Syllabus of Errors, which is attached to Vatican I, so it's dogmatic in Roman Catholicism, it literally condemns the very thing that Leo said the other day. And they don't even know that it's not just Leo, it's Vatican II. It's the documents of Vatican II. In fact, there's an entire document dedicated to religious liberty in Vatican II. And Gaudium et Spes, which is about papal political perspectives, as we saw, was literally Marxist socialist attitudes. Open chain migration, open borders, de-armament, getting rid of nation states and borders. Now, Leo goes on almost every week and says, open up your borders to the Africans, open up your borders to the migrants. Literally, he says it all the time. And yet, every beige trad cat ignores this and just cites whatever they want that they think is good amongst these clowns. And that's, I think, what's crazy is that no matter how many times you show the information, the evidence, etc., they dishonestly pick and choose the narrative that fits what they want. So there's all of these live streams that we did here, or excuse me, open spaces that we did. And thank you to Father John Wyford, because he cited the Orthodox Survival Course by Father Seraphim Rose, which points out that you can't be Orthodox and be an open and supporter of this figure who was an obvious Antichrist. I mean, it's obviously the case that if you believe in, Orthodox Christian history, Tiny Mustache Man was motivated by the West to get rid of the two rivals to the Western power bloc. He was motivated by the Anglo-American establishment to get rid of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Russia. Those are the two things that World War I, World War II, and the Cold War were intended to destroy. That's Quigley's narrative. And guess what? It's not just Quigley. Even mainline outlets and analysts like Stratfor have put out similar statements that the 20th century's wars were about getting rid of through war, because war exhausts countries. It depletes their resources and their populations. And then they become weakened through massive warfare, such that they have to concede, and then they're put into debt slavery. We covered all that extensively. I've covered it for at least 10 years since we did the Quigley lectures. And I don't just rely on Quigley. We've got multiple books that all deal with this. So, and yes, we talked about the influences, including theosophy, Wotan, paganism, all of that. No, you don't know what the difference between a Soviet and a Tiny Mustache Man. My joke thumbnail is a Soviet Anya Taylor-Joy assassin. I thought that was funny. People don't even know the difference between a Soviet uniform and a Hugo Boss Tiny Mustache uniform. So, this is a great quote by Father Seraphim Rose. In the idea of a pagan 1,000-year Reich, that you can't really jibe with that. Now, it might be true that Tiny Mustache Man is not as bad as the Bolsheviks. But people are so basic bitch in their dialectics that they'll think, oh, well, if Bolsheviks are bad, then the opposite must be good. Oh, well, I guess if the five families are bad, when Tony Soprano goes to war against them, Tony Soprano's good. That's how stupid this is. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with meme warfare. I think it's fun. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying in the comments. I'm not saying you can't do memes and meme warfare. It's a joke, man. But what I'm saying is that, okay, well, you know what? You didn't even know the difference between a Soviet and an SS, so you can just get out of here, you idiot. Dude thought the Soviet uniform was an SS uniform. That's how stupid these people are. So moving on, here's one of these profiles with, let's see how many followers does this guy have. He's got 50,000 almost. And so I DM'd this guy, hit him up, and publicly he said nothing but nasty, nasty stuff. And then in DMs, oh, he got really nice. Oh, he's so nice in DMs. And I said, well, will any of you just come and discuss this, have a conversation? No, none of them would. I said, well, why wouldn't you come discuss it to convince me of your position? Oh, because we know that you will mute and boot us because you can't argue. So I'll let you talk. You can make whatever arguments you want. I won't mute. I don't have to mute you and boot you. It's not even true. Like, I don't have to rely on that. No. We know what you're going to do. You're going to mute us and boot us. Mute and boot, man. Well, I mean, I think if you listen to what we did, like most of the people who came on couldn't even put together a coherent sentence. Now, let's look again at the papacy. This was that point. This was the tweet I was looking for. God's love breaks down all the border walls and dispels hatred. During his Pentecost Mass, Leo XIV said that the Holy Spirit wants us to make room for God's love. That means getting rid of exclusionary borders. Okay. In the communities of ancient Christian tradition, many brothers and sisters from the world's south should be welcomed. Now, he's talking about open borders. He's not even talking about, it's not talking about Christianity. He's saying that just open up your borders. Well, the ancient Christian world wasn't opening up borders because everyone's, quote, Christian. That doesn't make any sense. But it does make sense when you look at who has actually aided the importation of all of these people. And they got super mad when I brought this up because across the board, every one of the stats says the exact same thing. Now, it is true that Middle Eastern countries have a role in this. For example, HIAS makes up about 3% of this. What makes up 82.6%? Catholic charities. And they said, that's run by Middle Eastern peoples. No, it's not. Actually, go look at the board of directors. It's all fat boomers and Karens. Now, Pope Respecter called me out, who is one of the dumbest Twitter profiles of all. He thinks this is how dumb this guy. He thinks Francis was bathed in tread. I'm not kidding. Actually thinks Francis was bathed in tread. How did Pope Respecter come to that conclusion? Well, he combs through anything that's said by Francis to find anything true or so-called conservative. Therefore, he's bathed in tread. And what none of these people seem to understand is bureaucraties. It's what Tim Gordon, one of their own, calls Peronism, where you say two different things out of both sides of your mouth. It's a classic trick of bureaucracy. On the one hand, you say some conservative things to throw to the trads a bone. But then on the other hand, you say and do actions totally incompatible with that. So we're going to have a rainbow procession, but then I'm going to turn around and say there's too many TRA and Z people. That's called being double-minded and hypocritical and contradicting yourself. That's not being base and trad. I pointed out what John Paul II taught, which is in harmony with what Nostra Aetate says and what Lumen Gentium says. Jews are already in covenant with God. Anti-Judaism and anti-Semitism are sins. Now, how many of these people actually follow their Pope? None of them. Roman Catholic teaching no longer believes that Jews should be converted. They have their own distinctive vocation in God's plan. This is dispensational dual covenant theology, even from the Vatican. And this is no different than the 2003 U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops document, Reflections on Covenant and Mission, which says exactly what John Paul II says. Christians must affirm Jewish self-understanding. In other words, don't try to convert them. They have their own path. And a little bit of a reminder to the Tradcats, it is the papacy that was the patron of the Bamberg Talmud. Pope Leo X was the patron of the Bamberg Talmud. Not only that, as Michael Hoffman wrote, usury used to be a sin in Christendom. And it was the papacy that reversed its position to say it is no longer a mortal sin to exercise the practice of usury. There's a whole book he wrote on that. And what's the result of all this? Well, outside of online LARPing, it turns out, according to even Taylor Marshall himself, Roman Catholic mass attendance is plummeting. In 2015, 39% of U.S. claimed Catholics would attend Mass every week. In 2024, 10% dropped off to 29%. Meanwhile, Orthodox churches are tripling in size every year. What is one of the mistakes I think that people are making? Well, it's what Oswald Spengler said, which was that we're going to go to calls in a minute. Just relax, dude. I see you. Spengler said that you can't resurrect a historical form that has come and gone. For example, we will never go back to the Roman Imperium. We'll never go back to Byzantium. You can always only stand on the shoulders of previous generations and civilizations, but there has to be some new form. And the new form might have elements of synthesizing the past, but you can never recreate the Templar armies. It's just ridiculous. It's role-playing, fantasy fiction, LARPing, etc. So you can have a future Orthodox Christian monarchy. You can have an imperium. That's possible. I'm not saying it will happen. But you're not going to reinvent or recreate, the Franco-Papal Empire or something like that. And that was one of the things I learned reading Decline of the West, was like, actually, I never thought about that, because when I was in my 20s, much like all of these guys arguing with me, I had a very idealistic attitude that, like, if I just convince everybody the right position, then we can like recreate, some trad-based medieval world. You can't recreate a medieval world that has come and gone. These civilizations have a life and a death cycle. I think Spengler was correct about that. I don't think Spengler was correct about everything. Spengler was a type of historical relativist, so he didn't think that there were truths that were universal to all cultures. I disagree with that. But he's still very insightful. And if you don't think he's insightful, then why was Kissinger writing a dissertation on it? Why was Spengler studied at the Tavistock Institute to weaponize his Decline of the West thesis? As we said, there's multiple pages in the book that talks about Slavs being genetically inferior and essentially needing to be removed, shall we say. So my response to all this was, instead of all of your lame LARPing memes, there are plenty of Orthodox monarchs who were opposed to Zionism, opposed to Rabbinic Judaism, opposed to Islam. Did you know that Tiny Mustache Man made an alliance with Islam, or tried to in many ways? Are you aware of that? You didn't know that? How are Christian tradcats going to follow a guy who wanted to make alliance with Muslims? You didn't know about that? And by the way, the Ryan Gosling that we're talking about here, it was actually a British intelligence agent. And yes, he is the reincarnated spitting image. I might be a Kabbalistic reincarnation proponent now, because it looks like this was actually the case, that Amin al-Husani. I mean, look, dude looks just like Ryan Gosling, bro. Did you know Ryan Gosling was a British intelligence imam at the time of World War II? And here he is when they're trying to make the alliance with Tiny Mustache Man here. But I mean, right wingers are so stupid that they will fall for this. Yeah, man, let's have a based alliance with Muslims. We'll work together against degeneracy. And it's like, well, are you going to work together against child brides, or is that part of like, oh, that's actually based in trad, I guess. Oh, okay. You want your daughters to be child brides to Muslims? I thought you were against the EU promoting integration with the daughters of Europeans marrying with Muslims, but now you want to unite with the right-wing alliance with the Muslims. Oh, okay. Interesting. That makes a lot of sense. People are so easily propagandized, man. It's actually, it's sad and funny at the same time. But yes, Amin al-Husani was probably for this entire time an operative for British intelligence. And that's covered in detail in an entire chapter in the Mark Curtis book. And he's a Royal Society researcher. But how do you call in? You call into, bro, come on, man. You call in on the Twitter space. And we're about to go to some of these calls right now. Now, we don't have to keep talking about this. This is just what's fresh on my mind because of all the wild stuff that happened in the past few days. But here you've got St. Stephen of Serbia. He fought the Muslims. You've got Tsar Nicholas, murdered by the Bolsheviks, largely Talmudic influence there for that event. And as I pointed out, if you want to be political, you're going to have to figure out that there's two Vatican documents. There's the document on religious liberty, and there's, well, you could argue Nostra Aetate as well. There's three. And then Gaudium et Spes, all of which affirm that the state should be de-Catholicized. There should be total religious liberty, which was condemned dozens of times prior to Vatican II by the papacy. And Protestantism long ago gave up its notion of a confessional state. How well did the Protestant confessional states work? Oh, well, they all fought each other and it was a complete failure, which shows you, by the way, that how are we going to have a Christian nationalist coalition with people like Doug Wilson when the Protestants all already killed themselves and basically all gave up the notion of confessional states, even at the time of the Reformation and the various 30 Years' War and all that. Oh, but yeah, we'll just start up. Everybody's so naive; they don't have any conception of history. They don't know anything about modern European history. They don't know about all the fighting and the infighting with the Protestants over. They couldn't even agree about like whether infants should be baptized. They're literally killing each other over infant baptism. Like Luther says Zwingli should be drowned. And then you have these wars between the royals and the cavaliers and oh yeah, we're going to have Christian nationalism. Now, I believe that we should have Orthodox Christian nationalism, but that only really makes sense when you've got the majority of the population confessing the same faith. Byzantium didn't work because of 1,000 different crazy sects all professing the same word concept fallacy, quote, God. But that's actually what these people, we all believe in God. We all believe in God. Interesting. Well, I thought it says in 1 John that if you don't have the Son, you don't have the Father. We all believe in the same God. Jay, are you dipping now? I got addicted to Alp again, so I'm back on my nicotines, and I'm enjoying it. I wanted a way to continue enjoying nicotine. I wasn't going to vape. Vaping is fake and gay. I don't want to smoke cigarettes. Look at that. Did that for my 20s. And I am enjoying my Zen packs, I have to say. Not Zen packs, Alps, whatever. Yet another one of these. Now, this is Jake Shields' Clipper dude. Of course, he talks shit, but he won't come debate. And again, Jake Shields already said, I'm not going to have a debate with that guy. It's too nuanced. I'm not knocking the guy or dissing the guy. But this is part of the reason this got all sort of like going wild. And I have to say, I will say this for those that don't know, I don't create the titles of Alex's videos. Okay. Alex has a team of people who, unfortunately, by the way, might, you know, some of those people might lose their job after over all this stuff. But I did not title this. The title read, and I don't even know who made the title. It just, the way that media works is there's teams of people behind all of these big name people, and the teams, and then they're good, great guys. I'm not knocking the team. They're all awesome people at InfoWars, but people on the fly put out titles because in media, everything is moving at like light speed, right? So they put the title out. Documents reveal how the Vatican supported the creation of the modern nation state of Israel. That's actually not what I said, and I don't think that's correct. So that part of the title is wrong. But whoever made the title probably just overheard somebody saying, hey, make a title of blah, 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 blah. And then they probably ran it together. Okay. But no, as far as I'm aware, the Vatican did not support the nation state of Israel. And as I pointed out in one of my streams, in the Mossad book that we covered, we don't ever talk about Israel or Zion, even though I cover entire Mossad books. I lecture from them. Gordon Thomas's Mossad text points out that it was under John Paul II, who was the great ally of the Jews, that Mossad convinced John Paul II to recognize the nation state of Israel. So I did not say that the creation of the nation state of Israel had anything to do with the Vatican. That was something that was misheard in the title. So a lot of people took issue with this title. And Pope Respecter assumes that I wrote this title and that I was being intentionally dishonest. So no idea how media works, no idea what it's actually like doing live studio shows. Everything is happening on the fly. Let's see, I think that's the last thing I wanted to mention before. Also the conference, shout out to you guys. The conference has sold out. This will be our biggest conference that we've ever done. It's already maxed out. If you didn't get your tickets, you'll have to wait till next year. I don't know if they're going to record it. I think they will, but I'm not 100% positive. But let's also mention that October 30th, I'll be signing books. Esoteric Hollywood 3 is out. I've got the copies in my hand. Look at this beautiful bad boy right here. You guys can see it. Yep. My living room is a giant pallet of books. Okay, so all of these books that you guys are waiting on, they're all in my living room. My living room is a giant box of books, and that's all that it is. You can't even get around. So I apologize that it took longer, but that's how publishing is. Sometimes there's delays. Guys, thank you. If you want to support the stream, you can do so through Super Chat. Super Chats are done through Streamlabs or natively through YouTube. I will be paying attention to both, and I will go to those here in a minute. Feel free to call in if you'd like to ask a question. And that's done through Twitter, through the X Space. But I am really happy with how it turned out. I think a lot of people said, hey, the first two, the quality of the paper was a little less. This is a new printer that Chris has gone with for his books, and this is really high quality paper. Just letting you guys know, like it's not as it's better quality than 1 and 2. And I don't know if the new print runs of 1 and 2 will probably eventually be like good quality paper, but he also kind of added in some helpful new typeface type elements, for example, because nobody knows about old school Hollywood stuff, right? When I start talking about the spies in old school Hollywood, right, he's got helpful identifiers here. And no, by the way, Joan Crawford wasn't a spy, but she's in a movie written by the British intelligence operatives that were writing scripts to ensure that the U.S. would enter the war on the side of Britain against the Axis. And it's a fascinating thing that I didn't even know this until I read this. I'll just read you one little snippet here. It says, the invention of the camera saw the immediate use of technological wonder for propaganda by all the major powers beginning in the 1900s. The intelligence agencies soon stepped in. For the sake of this section, we'll begin with World War II entertainers who were recruited into these unique roles into the present day. The A-lister and highest paid European singer and dancer of her day, Josephine Baker, was recruited into spying for the French resistance as Hitler rose to power in the 1930s. Likewise, the most famous entertainer in Sweden was recruited by the Axis powers to spy on Tiny Mustache Man's higher-ups, and even slept with him as a swallow operation that ruined her entire film career. This was made into a recent Swedish film in 2019 called Spy, based upon her life. I should have actually mentioned her name, but you can read in the footnotes. Audrey Hepburn, for example, aided the Dutch resistance and passed intelligence information to the Allies, working under British intelligence operative Vissert Hooft. Meanwhile, Greta Garbo has long been suspected of being a British spy. Houdini famously spied on German and Russian troop movements for the British War Office and was reported to be a spy for Interpol as well. Celebrated professional baseball catcher Mo Berg was recruited by the OSS to spy on German scientists like Dr. Werner Heisenberg. Many other A-listers, like Marlene Dietrich, were suspected of being a spy for the Germans, while both of which are hotly debated as to which and who she spied for. We've also covered Ian Fleming in previous volumes, but in his immediate circles, it included the infamous William Stevenson, aka Intrepid, Noel Coward, and Alexander Korda, who set up the British Security Coordination Office. This office was staffed with former special operations executives who ran their Hollywood propaganda and forgery operations out of 35th and 36th floors of Rockefeller Plaza. Together with Bill Donovan, they helped set up the OSS. But the BSC and Donovan also worked with multiple early screenplay writers in OSS-themed films like Confidential Agent in 1945, starring Lauren Bacall, OSS in 1946, starring Alan Ladd, and Rue Madeleine in 1947, directed by Fritz Lang. The BSC, through its most famous novelist, Helen McInnes, this is the British spy operation writing Hollywood screenplays to ensure that the Americans would be propagandized to come into the war on the side of the Allies. It continued its Hollywood propaganda operations, especially through the famous 1943 Joan Crawford film Above Suspicion. I then go on to discuss many FBI films. In fact, TV chef Julia Child, director John Ford, and A-lister Sterling Hayden were OSS operatives. I didn't even know Sterling Hayden was an OSS operative until this last year. And this is something that I've studied for, 15 years now. So Esoteric Hollywood 3 is pretty action-packed. It's pretty information-packed. I mean, I even got into that stuff with Nicolas Cage and The Rock. That one blew me away, that The Rock was actually written prior to Gulf War, to promote the Gulf War. Or I should say the supposed intelligence that Saddam had chemical weapons was actually based on bullcrap. That is the plot. That's the plot of The Rock. You can't make this up. That's not me saying that. That's from mainline British intelligence historian Christopher Andrews in his book. So chew on that. See that right there? And then, yeah. So I put a lot of time and effort into Esoteric Hollywood 3. It took me about 2 years to write. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it's a good capstone, to use occult language. I hope it's a good final word, an act 3 to the trilogy. Nick, what's up, man?
What's up, Nick? Just wanted to start by confirming one of the things you said about it was like the title on Alex's video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, I mean, that's like common practice as well. I know people are probably like flacking them for it, but it's like, It's a headline. It's not a video title. That's not how we look at it. So like I do this all the time with clients where it's like we write a headline
Right.
and it's just like what's going to get the most clicks, and it's kind of a generalization of what happens. Like you see this all the time on YouTube. Never do this if you want to live forever. Yeah, that's kind of the point of it. Is it's supposed to be clickbaity to just get views, and then I think people just took it a little bit too seriously. So I just wanted to confirm that. Like I literally do this for a living, and that's 100% true. That's what we do. The second thing though that I wanted to share, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I've been observing that whole crowd of tiny mustache man admirers, and just in general, a lot of these people as well are Orthodox. It's not just Catholics. It's Orthodox people, and it is Catholics as well. And I remember bringing this to Father Moses and just like talking with him about it, just like what I'm seeing on Twitter. And he was like, oh, it's just very obvious none of these people have a spiritual father. And I started to notice this more and more, that I would observe like the Orthodox space as well as the Catholic space online, is it just feels like if you were to bring this to your spiritual father, there's a 0% chance that he'd be like, yeah, I approve of this. And I don't know if it's just people wanting to LARP as being super based and that they're behind a anon profile picture, but majority of what these people believe, like one, you hit on it perfectly with Father Seraphim's Rose point on Tiny Mustache Man. But it's just in general, like this isn't Christian. This has nothing to do with Christianity. To act like someone who committed a genocide, is Christian. It's just
genocide of millions of Christians, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, but then even past that, it's just I don't even know where they're generating this, other than it's just like the next tape. It's the next thing that is raunchy and is edgy and whatnot that people can get behind to post to like piss people off. That's really what it feels like more than anything, rather than actually having a viewpoint or worldview that matches your belief system. That's at least what I'm saying. I'm just curious to hear your take on that.
Yeah, well, let's look at what it says. Positive Christianity is a religious movement in Germany, which promoted the belief that the Teutonic purity should be maintained. And then it says this was a fundamental or significant element mixed with elements of Nicene Christianity. It was Tiny Mustache Man who used this point at one point in 1920. And it goes on to say that really what the idea is that Tiny Mustache Man is the herald of new revelation. So it's a new revelation that surpasses just like Muhammad or
just like Mormonism,
just like Mormons, just like Muhammad, Joseph Smith. And it says that the idea is to purge the Bible of any Jewish elements. Right? So this would result in bypassing the Nicene Creed. And what I'm looking for is the actual statement. It talks in here about here it is. So Alfred Rosenberg played a key role in this. He wanted to craft a Reich-centric Christianity, and there's a specific statement where it talks about Marcionism. I'm trying to find that. And yes, I know that Wikipedia is not a great source. I'm just pulling it up because I don't think it's really controversial, because I remember reading this a long time ago in Rosenberg. And it says right here, although it is expressly associated with race, the theology underpinnings predate this. The earliest form of this is the Marcionite sect. Marcion attempted to rid the Bible of any Jewish elements. And then it goes on to say that some of the historians of positive Christianity actually trace this to higher criticism. That goes back to Luther. Goes back to Julius Wellhausen. That Wellhausen is the father of JEPD, the Yahwist, Elohist, priestly, and Deuteronomist traditions. That's the academic approach to the Bible, which cuts it up and says it's all basically mythology. Well, Wellhausen's operating presupposition, I've read him. He says, our presupposition for higher criticism and the documentary hypothesis is that the real religion has to be purged of anything ritualistic and Judaic, right? And so Wellhausen is open about his presupposition, right? Now, when I brought this up with a lot of the Tiny Mustache Man devotees, they didn't even know that Mein K, the book, actually explicitly says the same type of thing. Let's get rid of altars and the idea of Eucharistic sacrifices because that's Judaic. There's an actual phrase in MK about that. And he says that the idea that all the pagan altars should be torn down, that's Judaic. That's got to be gotten rid of. And so I don't know exactly what Tiny Mustache Man's religious views are. They seem to be something either agnostic and atheist at times or perennialist at times. That's my take on it. Other members like Himmler were explicitly neo-pagan, right? Himmler's got speeches where he says, no, we got to get rid of Christianity. He says Christianity is a psyop against the, Teutonic, Nordic peoples, whatever. And Himmler was very interested in, the ascended masters, and he took trips to the Himalayas and all that kind of stuff to find the master root race, right? So definitely, and I'm not confirming this, but it seems like the stuff that Blavatsky talks about with the root races seems to have influenced Himmler. It seems like the same kind of ideology, but I'm not positive of that. Dealer says, have you watched the documentary Europa? Yeah, but you should look at Keith Woods's pointing out of all the mistakes in that documentary. So a lot of people have watched these documentaries are kind of getting, I think, propagandized, and people don't even think about documentaries actually being propaganda, which they are and can be. But thank you for that. Hush Tones, what's up?
Oh, yo, hey.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to all these spaces, over the weekend, past couple days, and congrats on the Esoteric Hollywood, man. It's really awesome. But it's just funny how a lot of these like Hitler worshiping types, like what I recognize, a lot of them are Protestants or like even neo-pagans, obviously. But both of these groups, like I remember one guy was arguing with you, and he was like, "Oh, so you believe in transubstantiation?" Like he said that out of nowhere, and like. Both these types of people reject the real presence, but they worship like their own like Aryan blood, which is really weird, I've noticed. And it's ironic because a lot of them are like not even fully Aryan at all, and most of them are too like autistic or like not well adjusted enough to like actually get a wife and propagate the white race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have blue eyes. I'm full Scotch English angle, Scott, look. So like I'm way more Aryan than most of these people, ironically. What's up, man? What's up, dude? I'm mute. Victor.
Yeah, man, that's me. What's up? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I just like a quick question. I have a hard time like reading more theoretical books like theology and stuff, and I don't know if that fits the man issues subject, but I wanted to know like,
it does. Sure.
Like your takes, because my attention span sucks. I'm a Zoomer, so you can.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. It's a huge issue. I appreciate you bringing that because young guys need to stop scrolling because that's what's destroyed your attention span. Video games have destroyed your attention span. So cut down all of that radically and start reading something small. Start with Narnia. And I'm not kidding. And you have to work your way up. Usually people find fiction to be the bridge to nonfiction, right? So you're going to get in the habit of reading, but you got to start with things that are fun. And so start with reading something like Narnia or Screwtape Letters. And then you'll graduate as you read some easy sort of fiction texts. Move from that to say Brave New World. Move from that to 1984. I'm saying from Narnia, and then you'll kind of be in the habit. So it's just cultivating new habits is all it is. Your attention span isn't ruined. The mind can heal. You can be healed from this, but in order to cultivate it, it's like anything else. It takes time and practice, right? I've read hundreds and hundreds of books since I was a kid. And I did that because my mom cultivated in me, as she was an editor and a librarian, she cultivated in me a love for reading. And it's like anything else, like you got to work at it. And you got to get out of this attitude of thinking that everything's instantaneous and you should be satisfied instantaneously. Book reading is a chore. It should be a chore. But that's why, like anything else, like riding a bicycle, you start with training wheels, you start small, and you work your way up. Don't grab Brothers Karamazov if you're not used to reading and think because you're never going to make it through, right? You're not. Don't even start with C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy. It's too difficult. It's written for adults. Father Deacon Nice, you want to say something? Did you want to say something?
No, I just absolutely that I have severe learning disabilities with the attention and
and the severe mental retardation, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Write papers and do stuff. No, there is. Jay's right. We really got to cut out the video games, the scrolling, and the digital usage.
Cut it down, at least.
Rewire your brain.
Yes.
Like it may take a long time too, but it can be done.
I think they say like 4 to 8 weeks to break a lot of patterns and kind of reprogram. It usually takes a few months, So just like with anything, like you're not going to see overnight, I quit internet for 2 days and like I can't read yet. It's going to take a few months to break your previous habits and for your brain to rewire. What's up, dog? Sir, whatever, unmute.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Good.
Yeah, I just came in, so I missed anything prior to this. I heard you talking about Keith Woods and stuff. Do you have a link for that? His breakdown of Europa?
It's just on his Keith Woods Substack. Thank you for that.
So is it true that they're going to remake Europa, given Keith Woods some of his criticism and stuff that he pointed out? Or
I have no idea. I don't know. I haven't followed any of that stuff. Wolf, what's up?
Hey, what's going on? Love what you're doing. Love how you're exposing these 20 and 30-year-olds that are just coming to terms with who Hitler was. But I just had a quick question for you. If you're familiar with this guy by the name of James Condit Jr. and his work regarding Hitler?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I would look up his video on YouTube. It's called The Final Solution to Hitler. He's got a lot of sources. He puts everything together pretty well.
And what's the thesis there?
Basically that he was a con man. He was Jewish on like both sides of his family. I mean, he has like...
I think that's I appreciate that. I think that's what Sam Tripoli thinks. And we're going to do Tripoli and I are going to do a podcast soon, but remember the topics are open to anything. We don't have to talk about Tiny Mustache Man all day. I mean, it's such a, like, it gets old after a while, but Mike C says for $5, how are ortho bros supposed to find ortho gals? The liturgies are all sausage fest. Do you have any other good places to look? Yeah, my theory is you convert a Baptist girl, bring her to the liturgy. That's your best bet.
So I was with Father Andrew yesterday, and he said he was found out or was speaking with somebody that said that, oh, I remember, it's Jared who was heading up the whole monastery thing. He's a parishioner of ours. He said in Serbia that all the pious Orthodox women can't find guys. Like, the guys in Serbia don't want to go to church. They just gamble, drink, smoke, cuss, and they have the reverse problem. They can't find any Orthodox guys over there, and the guys here can't find any Orthodox women. So there you go.
Let's see. Brendan, what's up? So the topics, by the way, are also anything to do with theology, geopolitics, men's issues. It's not all about World War II. What's up, man? Import the Serbians, they're saying. What's up, man? I'm mute.
You brought me on.
Yeah, what's up?
I don't want to condemn or judge anybody, but I've been going to a Serbian Orthodox church, and I don't want to like tattle or dox anybody, but some of the younger guys I talk to seem to entertain ideas of like ethnic governance and stuff like that. And I just kind of thought, listening to you and other people, that if you take orthodoxy seriously, and not that I know more than anyone else, isn't that a mutual point of negotiation for like all people?
What do you mean a mutual point of negotiation?
Why should I need to care about race problems besides how they're manipulating me? Like, I don't care about other races. Doesn't orthodoxy and Christianity solve these problems?
Well, it does. I mean, I don't know what you mean about caring about other races, but like, I think if we were faithful, we would eventually come to the attitude that every people group has a right to be self-determining. So, yeah. Counter, what's up?
That's come up before. Like, that's what I've always said, is that people should be proud of their culture and ethnic backgrounds and have a right to self-determine, preserve their ethnicity. And I don't know why that doesn't mean.
Yeah, but people can't distinguish between that and, oh, you worship your blood and soil. What doesn't say what? So Jay in the chat says Jay is lying. Well, don't delete him. See if he'll call in. I don't even know what. Why am I spitting into it? Because I'm using my Alp and I'm enjoying it. What's up, man? What's on your mind?
Hey Jay, I got two things. One, just real quick, adding to what Father Seraphim Rose said about this syndrome. He said the death of faith does not produce neutrality; it produces the worship of man, of progress, nation, of race, and of a new order. So I think that's what we're seeing right now. And if you look at a lot of the flag of these groups, these are just openly pagan groups that are
I know.
all about. Yeah, and so my question to you is that we're seeing a rise of this, and we're seeing a lot of converts. For example, we got AP, right? People who are Zionists, who are, tiny mustache worshippers. They're converting to the faith. And it seems like to me that they don't want to change that. They don't want to be healed.
Yeah, they want to keep their political idols and say, I want Orthodox Christianity according to how I frame it.
Yeah, and then the thing is, they think that it seems to me that they're trying to promote their own little groups within Orthodoxy. Obviously, they don't have spiritual fathers, but where do you think this social movement, because it seems to me it's kind of growing a little bit, where do you think it's going to go at the end? So that's all my question. Thank you.
It's hard to say. I mean, this is a tendency I think that everybody falls into. Just like we pointed out with the Coptics and the Assyrian Church of the East, when you abandon the right theology, what ends up happening is the ethnic tribal concerns become the first place. So it's inverting the hierarchy of things that are important out of place and out of whack. And when you lose the right theology, the first thing that comes in usually in these group dynamics is the tribe. And everybody then thinks that if you don't have the tribal first, then you hate the tribe and you're anti-white, you're anti-this, anti-that. It's a lack of sophisticated thinking. It's not putting things into the right order. For example, if I, through the principle of subsidiarity, believe that my wife comes first and that my love and concern for her puts her first, oh, well, I guess you don't love your grandparents because you said your wife came first. You must hate your grandparents. You must hate everyone outside of your family, your brothers and your sisters and your uncle, because you said your wife came first. This is how childish and silly people are these days. They can't think in terms of putting things into ordered priorities. The Catholics, they're right about this. It's just a simple philosophical term called the principle of subsidiarity. I have more concern for my wife than I do for things happening thousands of miles away. All right. I have more concern and love for my wife than I do Africans. Oh, you hate Africans. You must hate the Africans. You hate everybody. That's how stupid. Everybody is so childish, man. It's like you can't even have basic distinctions in things. People just all either ors. You either worship this thing or you hate everything else. That's also a symptom of what we talked about in this NATO PSYOP document of the internet's false debates and faux debates are making everyone hyper emotional and reactionary by design. Dyer's a conspiracy retard. The tinfoil hat he thinks is by design. Even though the NATO PSYOP cognitive warfare document on the screen right now says it's by design. I don't see the word by design there. Oh, so unless it's specifically, this is how stupid we're dealing with, like children, man. It's children. What's up?
Hello.
Yes. Welcome, sir.
Well, I know both you and FDA wanted to resurrect Jimmy Carter as a symbol of your power. But I know that, so you're not going to be able to do that with Christianity. You need to put your Christianity first and put your love for Jimmy Carter second. I just want to make sure you guys know that.
You remember when they were doing Dark Brandon? How come nobody's doing Dark Jimmy? I want to do, somebody needs to do a Dark Jimmy. I mean, look, he's like a based, look, he looks super Aryan right here. He's like a Aryan, Aryan God person right here. Look,
you could start memeing a peanut, like a picture of a peanut.
No, with laser eyes, a dark peanut with laser eyes, and call it Dark Jimmy, Dark Carter.
Yes, that would be and you would also, Jay, you would also have to give up your devotion of putting your, you being a black person first. You need to put that to the side.
Well, that's the real reason the Wignats are mad at me is because they know that I'm actually identifying as a black person, like Rachel Dolezal, and they can't deal with that. I mean, you saw my blue eyes, right? Like I'm full blood Aryan, straight up Scottish, power genes. But I'm identifying as a powerful black woman, and it's just shorting their circuits. They can't handle it. Trey, what's up? Somebody make a dark Carter meme with Jimmy Carter with like fascist imagery and like a peanut at a podium, like Tiny Mustache Man, like beating on the podium and sweating, but it's a peanut with glowing laser eyes, and call it Dark Carter. What's up?
Hey, Jay.
Hey.
Hey, so I started taking my family to an Orthodox church in St. Louis about a month and a half ago.
Cool.
And one of the leaders asked me what kind of books I was reading, and I mentioned a couple of Father Seraphim Rose's books, and they seemed quite taken aback by it. Like, they don't know, and they kind of directed me away from him. And I was just wondering if you could explain kind of what the controversy is.
Well, I mean, they could have various reasons why they don't like Father Seraphim Rose, but I mean, a lot of the people are just normies in the Orthodox world. So remember, when you go into the Orthodox world, you're not dealing with like, oh, it's all beige trad politics, bro. I mean, you're gonna have all kinds of. It's gonna have a lot of the same stuff. You're gonna have Americanists. You're gonna have heterodox. You're gonna have secret Skittles people. Sometimes open Skittles. Like, you're not getting away from all the problems everywhere else in the world just because you're going into an Orthodox church. And probably half of the Orthodox Church in America is pretty bad. So fair warnings. But as to specifically what their issue is, I couldn't say. What's up, man? You might want to find a better church. There's actually some pretty awesome based Orthodox churches in St. Louis area. So, I don't know which one you're attending, but I think St. Basil's is pretty good there. Unmute. What's up, dude?
Hi, Jay. I had a quick question. You talk about Hebrews 13 being one of the verses. I think it's verse 11. Talks about the Eucharist, and I was just wondering, is there a specific Greek word?
It's not verse 11. It's verse 10. We have an altar that those who serve at the tabernacle have no right to eat. Verse 15 says, let us continually offer the sacrifice of praise. I'm pretty sure, I don't have the Greek text in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that is in regard to the Eucharistic offering. So the offering here is contrasting the Orthodox Christian service to the service of the Jewish temple, high priest stuff. And most, unless you're reading like hyper Protestants, like most traditional commentaries will point this out.
No, I agree with you. I was just looking for the specific Greek word.
Eucharistia is used in here. I want to say it's offering here in verse. I'm going from memory. It's verse 15, I think.
I can't hear.
What? I think he said, "Oh, thank you." Okay, let's see. Eucharistia in Greek, Hebrews 13. So the word may not explicitly appear in the Greek, but the context is the offering of what we're eating. So it may not be the right word, but the idea is there. Were you going to say something? FDA, were you going to say something? So, I mean, it's like, when I was a Protestant and I would see giving of thanks, my thought was, oh, that's just thank you, God. No, it's in the context of liturgical service. That's why it's Paul saying we eat from an altar. Right? So Protestants come to these texts with all these presuppositions that, oh, that's just like, thank you. No, that was my Protestant thinking. I didn't think about this from verses 10 all the way down to 16 as if it was in the context of the liturgy. Because I had all the same Protestant presuppositions that, oh, the early church was low church, and then high church was all an accretion. How says who? Yes, I'm spitting. Well, everybody's freaking out. I have my Zen packs. I mean, my Alps, whatever. I'm newly addicted, and I'm having fun. There's a Catholic, where I'm getting the Eucharistic element, there's a Catholic commentary that I remember from my Tradcat days. It might be the book, How Christ Said the First Mass, which even though it's written by Roman Catholic, it's actually pretty good. We could learn from that. I think I'm getting it from that book. Let's see. It's written by, yes, James Meagher. And you can find it on Internet Archive. But this is it here. It's a pretty good academic text. It's a little bit older, but it goes into like all of the symbolic correspondences, all the Old Testament references. It's not just about Hebrews, it's throughout the entire New Testament. So basically it's talking about the upper room, the high priestly prayer. Jesus is operating and acting as the high priest of the new covenant, which sort of mirrors the old covenant. Did the space just die? What happened? It's weird. The space just died. I didn't end the space. I don't know. It just ended. But, unless I hit the button or something. So if you were waiting in line, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Now I'm going to read some of these super chats because I've got a couple podcasts and interviews to do tonight, so I might not be able to stay a whole lot longer. We'll focus now on super chats. Bird, $10. Good work the last couple days. Keep it up. Thank you. Nick, we read that one. H. Brazi, we read that. Counterdocs, $10. No, we read that one. Austin Alvarez, KGB, keep getting Bitcoin. Mauricio, audio's choppy, audio's choppy, audio's choppy. Anthony, 17th, $5. Jay, I know you always recommend reading. Do you have any tips on how to go from never reading to make it a habit? Yeah, we mentioned this earlier in today's stream, which was you start small with something like, Narnia, and then you kind of work your way up to things a little more complex. You read some more fiction like, 1984, Brave New World, and then you'll kind of graduate into reading more nonfiction. That's what I would recommend. And you're going to have to cut down your video game time. You're going to have to cut down your internet scroll time, because that's what's messing up your attention span. So because I didn't do nicotine for 10 years, now that I'm using the Alp pack, it's too much. I can't swallow it. It make me sick. So now that you're asking. Profrog, Orthodox Muslim calls you out. He says that your argument is cheeks. I don't even know what that means. He already got in trouble for calling Muhammad holy and saying that the term father got abrogated. I don't know what that means. It sounds crazy. Gen Z, $3. Doesn't Christ and Orthodoxy solve a lot of these worldly problems? Absolutely. Autoscopy, $5. You think Tiny Mustache Man was goaded into Aryanizing a bunch of banks after the Havara Agreement? Well, just because he took the actions to oppose those that double-crossed him, I think people misunderstand what I said. They think of it like the banks are like literally telling Hitler at every moment what to do. I never said that. So they double-crossed him by telling him, we support you, go into the war, we won't oppose you. And then when he does all that, they publicly say, look, he's bad, look at what he did. And then they go to war once they got America on their side. So the British had to make sure that they alone couldn't fight this battle. They had to make sure that America would be on their side. And that's exactly what happened. But no, Tiny Mustache Man arresting three Rothschilds does not at all conflict with this thesis. In fact, it makes perfect sense because they really wanted a real war. Me too. I'm dropping a white pill. The Orthodox Church in Germany is growing. There's already 5 million plus believers, and all the churches on Sunday are full. Yeah, we have all kinds of ortho krauts that call in all the time. I get DMs from ortho krauts. Fundamentari, $27. Jay, I'm new to your channel. My girlfriend and I are low church. We're Anglicans. We're looking to convert to Orthodoxy. We're in the UK. We're overwhelmed. We bought an Orthodox study Bible. What content should we look at to guide us further? Yes, you should read or watch the documentary that is on Orthodox Shahada called Christian Worship in the Old Testament. You should look at Rock and Sand, Religion of the Apostles. You should look at Mystical Theology of the Eastern Church by Losky, Byzantine Theology by Meyendorff, and watch the Icon documentary. Those are good good places to start. Real Schizo. Do you know about the 2024 show, Brief History of the Future? I do not. I'll have to check that out. Oh, is that based on Jacques Attali's book? Because we've done a whole lecture through one of the global elite texts, Jacques Attali's book. And Athanasia, $7. Papas, thank you so much. AJ, $5. CDC lied to me more than the Bible. Yeah, boy, $5. Hi, I just wanted to say I couldn't find the second half of the H.G. Wells Open Conspiracy lecture on your members' website. Okay, I'll have to look and see how to fix that. Constantine, $10. Just a word of encouragement to an earlier caller. There are plenty of base churches, even in the OCA. Use your discernment. I appreciate you, Jay. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Did the audio stop getting choppy, by the way? I don't see anybody bitching about it, so it must have gotten better. Johnny Utah, $5. I started reading the Church Fathers. Who's the favorite? Who do you recommend? I mean, obviously the Cappadocians are very important for Orthodox theology, so I would read Athanasius on the Incarnation. I would read Athanasius ad Gentes. I would read the 5 theological orations of Gregory Nazianzus. I would read Basil on the Holy Spirit, and I would read Basil against Eunomius, and then I would read Maximus, John Damascus. I have on my channel an entire lecture through John Damascus's On the Orthodox Faith. It's at the bottom of the front page. James David Flood, NPCs cannot comprehend that Tiny Mustache Man was brought to power by the establishment, Wall Street banks, etc. Yeah, this is Anthony Sutton's series, Wall Street and the Rise of Tiny Mustache Man. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. Thank you so much. Deadly Theology, $5. Do you have any great sources you recommend for graduate research on the theological distinction between the Vatican I and Vatican II? By the way, great work. Graduate level research for writing research on distinction contrast between Vatican I and Vatican. I mean, you got to get the 16 Papal Documents book from 10 publishers because that's going to list out probably that'll be one of your key sources. I mean, you're gonna have to read Nostra Aetate, Lumen Gentium, Gaudium et Spes. What's the what's the Vatican II document on? I'm going blank on the name of the one of religious liberty. Is it Dignitatis Humanae? Yeah, you'll need to read Dignitatis Humanae, and you'll contrast that with all the text in the 10 books, publications, 16 papal documents. That's really will be key sources. Tanner G, $10. Jay, I used to be a big reader of physical books. Now I spend most of my time working my waking hours doing business. What about audiobooks? That's your next best thing. Absolutely. If you're in a situation where you're doing a lot of traveling, you're doing a lot of busy work, that kind of stuff, and you can do listening, absolutely listen to, because it's almost as good. It's not as good. That's kind of the peak, visual, but audiobooks are kind of the next best thing. So if you're really struggling with it, yes. Yeah, the Michael Pomazanski book for the guy who asked about Orthodoxy and Anglicanism in the UK, Orthodox Dogmatics, is good. Aidan Clark, $5. I just started reading Way of the Pilgrim. Do you have any thoughts on it? I read it back in 2006, and I enjoyed it. But honestly, I haven't thought much about it since then. Swinter's, $10. I'm recently curious about Orthodoxy. I don't have real life experience. Aside from the books, where should I start to gain familiarity? What about jurisdictions? Don't worry about the jurisdictions at this point. Just begin to learn the basic theology. I always tell people, start with the Icon documentary. It's a great way to get an introduction to Orthodox theology through iconography. And it's about 3 hours. It's this right here. The Icon, a 7-part documentary. If you're brand new, you don't know anything, start with this. And then Father Deacon Dr. Ananias, if you go to his patristic faith profile, he has an entire catechesis lecture online. So if you come over here to patristic faith, scroll down here. There should be a playlist right here. 43 videos, Orthodox catechesis. So all the people that are looking for online catechesis, they don't have access to it. They're not, in a church or whatever. There it is right there.
This just looks so zoomed in.
And this whole book, or this whole series, is working through the Pomazonsky book. So there you go. Jonathan, $5. Can I be your top guy? That sounds kind of gay. I'm going to say probably not. Although, if you, how could we make this not gay? I'll tell you what. Here's how you could be my top guy in a no homo sense. Go start your own clips channel, and you can clip my stuff, and then grow an audience. How's that? CK, $100. Hey yo, you low key bays, dog. Well, shout out to CK. He's one of our many bays black men that we give a shout out to. Myself being, of course, the top bays black man here. Shout out to CK. Got to meet him at Ludwell. Very cool dude. Teresa, did you read the book How the Brits Invented Communism by Richard Poe? No, I've not read that, but I mean, I can read the rabbis themselves. I could read Moses Hess himself. Moses Hess is the father of utopian socialism, and he's proud of it. So I'm not sure how that could be the case. Let's see. Making sure I didn't miss super chats, because people get really mad if you miss a super chat. If you miss a super chat, they assume that it's part of a conspiracy, and you're either the Mossad is calling and telling me that not to answer that super chat, or it's a conspiracy to steal $2 from these $2 super chatters. So I'm not stealing your $2, and there's no conspiracy. All right, I gotta go be on a podcast. Thank you guys so much. David Murdoch Art says for $20. Saturday, my son and I were baptized into the Orthodox Church. We received communion. You were a huge part of this, big part of this influence on this path. Thank you so much. Thank you, dude. Shout out to David Murdoch Art. Many years to you. Welcome to the Orthodox Church. Caleb Maltby, $10. Can you speak about infallibility of the church? I'm struggling with how the forerunner called out the Old Testament church. Okay, the Old Testament church was pre-Pentecost. Pentecost is the empowering of the church by the Holy Spirit, and Jesus specifically said that through the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, he would lead and guide the church into all truth. Therefore, the gates of hell cannot prevail against it. That was not said to the political nation state of Israel in the Old Testament. The church is a theandric institution. That means it is the body of the God-man. It is not a political institution. You notice the entities that lose the true theology, like the papacy, they immediately become, like the Old Testament Israel, a political focused entity. Not that politics doesn't matter, it's just not the priority. In Haggai 1, remember guys, we already have all this message, even in the Old Testament. Haggai 1 is about the Israelites putting politics first. They put politics and economics first, to the detriment of God's house. And God says, your money is devalued. It doesn't work. Your houses are falling apart. Why? Because you're not putting the worship of God first. Your priorities are out of whack. Can you give me books? They're appreciated. I mean, when you start to read the church fathers, you're going to notice that, they say the Council of Nicaea cannot err. When you understand that the Bible itself was put together by the decision of the church, then it doesn't make any sense to believe in the infallibility of the Bible and then deny infallibility to the people that decided what goes into the Bible. It just doesn't make any sense. Miomir Dujanovic, what is your learning methodology? How do you learn from books? Well, I mean, people don't have to use my strategy, but as you guys know, I summarize what's on each page that's a relevant page, not every page, with the sticky notes. The sticky notes are not color-coded. They're literally just ways to summarize and take notes on the most important pages and quotes. So that's the method that works for me. And I think when you involve the body and tactile stuff in this, and not just, say, hearing in an audiobook, which, again, it works, But when you're actually taking it in visually and you're involving yourself in making the notes, all those uneducated people that were making fun of me on Twitter because I write in the books, yeah, but I remember it. So that's why I'm actually educated and you're not. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, you can laugh at it all you want, but like, do you want to be educated or you want to be an uneducated internet dork? It's your choice. Jimmy, $5. Canaanite, Phoenician, Zosha tribe, the Kabbalah level 34 serpent seed started with Cain, Nimrod. Thank you for the $5, Jimmy. However, this sounds very schizo. So I don't know what any of that means, but I probably do not agree. Groove Monster, $10. Thank you for analysis of changing images of man. You're killing it. Yeah, this is a very important book. Hopefully you guys understand that this is a massive piece of information that vindicates us not just on the level of social engineering and the long-term technocratic plans. It actually vindicates me also in paradigm level worldview warfare. This whole chapter that I just completed, let's see which chapter this is. The feasibility of an evolutionary image of man. This is chapter 6. This chapter 6 is actually about paradigms, worldview warfare, and Thomas Kuhn's changing structure of scientific revolutions. So the structure of scientific revolutions is about how paradigms change. And so SRI and Tavistock and all these entities, they're studying Thomas Kuhn to figure out not just do we have paradigms, but how do we have paradigm warfare and how do we weaponize paradigms, presuppositions, and to give man a new worldview. They even say one of the key things that we'll do when we give man his new worldview for the technocratic era is we'll use Far Eastern philosophy that's not concerned with being consistent and logical and all this. We're going to teach man that he's just merely a part of nature. He's part of the evolutionary flux, and he needs to be humbled from thinking that he has a divine status made in the image of God. And this even says, we'll promote pantheistic universalist ideas. This is pages 140 and 141. Now, a bunch of people downloaded this book afterwards, which is great. So now you can go see for yourself all the stuff that I say is true. By the way, I didn't even realize until I got to page 146, it quotes Quigley. Amazing. There it is, quoting Fabian socialist Arnold Toynbee and Carol Quigley right there. It's actually not citing, by the way, Tragedy and Hope. It's citing one of Quigley's other key texts. What's it called? Evolution of Civilizations. That's it. Which, by the way, we'll get to in the future. We haven't even got to that book yet. But K-Bob the Great, $5. He says, can you explain the confusion between the early understanding of bishops and presbyters? It's not clear in the New Testament. Well, this is just Wes Huff's misunderstanding of word concept fallacies, right? So the assumption is just that, oh, well, we only look at the Greek words. This is very common amongst Protestants. You get this, for example, in James White does this too, where it's like, all I got to do to note the theology of the New Testament is go to my Greek Thayer's lexicon. I look up the word, and that tells me the meaning of the word. There you go. Orthodoxy refuted. What's funny is if you look at Wes Huff's recent post, it's like verging into Mormon level stuff of the apostasy began in the first century. So if you want to say that the first century church, because it starts to say that a bishop is above a presbyter due to the episcopate, then you're already in idiot land because now the church is apostate in the first century. But aside from that, in Acts 1, it says, when they replace Judas, let another take his office. The word there is episcopacy. That's apostolic succession. And none of the Presbyterians believe that there are any successors to the apostles. And yet in 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy, Paul says, I laid hands on you, Timothy. I passed on the Holy Spirit gift to you. Don't you lay hands on anybody hastily. There is also an Orthodox book that is good on this. It was almost sold out. Is it Roger? I think Father Rogers. Now, last time I looked on Amazon, it was almost sold out. This is it. Father Gregory Rogers. Turns out it's actually just a PDF. Yeah, you can get this at the Ancient Faith store. I think it's also available perhaps on Amazon. But this is another good, easy read on apostolic succession right here. Real Schizo, $5. On the last episode of the Europa documentary, the sources are listed. Some of them are already ones you mentioned, like Rome and Jerusalem. You should watch the last episode compared to your list. Okay, well, I actually reached out to Keith Woods too, by the way, to see if he wanted to do a discussion of this. And he used to follow me. I don't know. Maybe he got mad at me about something. I don't know. But it's his Substack, which has the... maybe you have to subscribe to it. I don't know. But it has the articles arguing about the questionable sources. Candlejack, $2. Will Esoteric Hollywood be an audiobook? Maybe. Maybe. I'm so busy all the time. I don't know. Maybe I could pay somebody with a nice, sexy voice to do it. Although, I mean, let's be honest. Who's going to have a hotter, sexier voice than me? Probably nobody. But what if I read the whole book in Nick Cage voice? Or what if I read the whole book in Nicolas Cage voice? Esoteric Hollywood, page 1 by Jay Dyer. Or if I read it all in John Hagee voice. Esoteric Hollywood, page 1. Israel is the God blood. Israel is not a bad place. Israel is the future. Blood moons are the apocalypse. Blood moon pies. How's that? Read it in John Hagee. The whole thing in John Hagee voice. Now, there's a lot more that could be said on apostolic succession, by the way. I'm just giving you a couple quick references for you. Put 8 Zen packs in and read Esoteric Hollywood. Yes, definitely. As I throw up from too much nicotine. All right, I got to go be on a podcast or a show, whatever. Thank you guys so much. A lot of fun. Wait, I'm sorry. Pazed and Build, $5. Is the trivium good? Yes, it is. Why are Freemasons obsessed with it? Well, just because Freemasons are obsessed with classical education doesn't make classical education good, false or bad. I mean, ancient pagans did classical education, and Basil says you should be classically educated. Yeah, read St. Basil's letter on the education of young men, I think it's called. Brandon Bragg, $5. Can I ask your opinion if having boomer slaves is okay? Yes, we should all have boomer slaves. How's that, Brandon? That's a joke, by the way. That's my Ty Lopez video. I actually forgot about that Ty Lopez video. FK Button, $5. Fine 4 will do. Fine 4. Oh, just do 4 Zen packs. And by the way, guys, if you want to support me, you can do so also through the Bitcoin wallet right here. That's my Bitcoin wallet. You can support there if you would like to support me in our preferred currency. But a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much. And be sure to hit like and share. And guys, another reminder, you guys, the Clips channels are killing it, bro. This is like massive exponential growth. I want to encourage you guys. Dyer Central, Dyer Vault, Orb Productions. I mean, so many Clips channels are killing it. Kyle started this off with Dyer Clips. I encourage you guys to make clip videos, and you're welcome to do it on YouTube. YouTube has a degree of clipping growth that definitely works, but more clips on TikTok, more clips on Instagram and Twitter, I think will be key, because a lot of people are clipping and it's doing well. It's killing it on YouTube. It's doing pretty good on Instagram and TikTok, but be sure and clip and put them on. You don't have to create just a profile of me. Like, you can do that, and you can also clip it on your own profiles if you want. I don't care. And like, so when Dyer Central, for example, puts up a clip, if you want to take that video and put it on your Twitter, go for it. I mean, this is what the way that Tate blew up was that Tate got all the people that like his content to just do the clipping. So if you want to have exponential growth, guys, and it's working, and that's the thing that will get the attention of the other people. So for example, I've talked to the Patrick Bet David scheduler people probably 10 times. And they're pretty candid. I'm not mad about it. They're pretty candid. They're like, look, you know, you need to get to about, 200, 250,000 before on Twitter, for example, before we look at the numbers, right? So the clips channels help that growth and that explosive stuff. And the more that it gets put out there, the better we do. So I want to try to focus on that kind of stuff in the next year. And guys, you can monetize those. I think Dyer Central is already monetized, right? So Dyer Central is monetized. The other one's monetized. Kyle monetized Dyer Clips 2 years ago. So have at it. Have fun. There's tons and tons of goofy, funny clips that you guys can share. People are creating memes out of the stuff I said. Like, some of these have gone viral. Like the one where this went viral a long time ago. It's one of the first ones to go viral a long time ago, was like the one where it's me talking, overdubbing the meme of the guy trying to hit on the girl, right? Like, this kind of stuff. People love this kind of stuff. Let me show you. Because if you guys want, and it's not just, this is how people get interested in orthodoxy, right? They come to watch the Hollywood stuff, they come for debates, and then they get interested in orthodoxy. So it works. So somebody was like, you don't like memes? No, I like memes. But I mean, we need to fight the meme war. Absolutely. Where was that? Here we go. So this right here. Right? Have at it, dude. Do all kinds of goofy stuff like this if you want. Thank you guys so much. Remember, we have a sponsor, the amazing, the one, the only, chalk.com. Head on over to chalk.com and use the promo code JAY40 to get 40% off all those great products at chalk.com. J40, JAY40. You can get that performance stack at a significant discount. That right there, especially. But all the products at Chalk are excellent. You don't have to buy the whole stack. You can buy individual, ashwagandha, mental focus, 7 wonders, excellent stuff. My favorite is, of course, the Tomcat Elite. That will boost testosterone. It's proven to do so in the studies that are linked at chalk.com. And I will see you guys very soon in the next stream. I think, by the way, we're going to start doing, I think, daily streams. We're going to have it. I'm going to test out set times. We are resurrecting the Discord Q&As because that was so helpful to so many people to convert. So we're going to resurrect the Discord. We're going to have Q&As. We're going to have daily streams. I've got events to go to next week, so that will probably start in 2 weeks, but you're going to get more and more and more content. Don't worry. Everybody have a good night.